The NBA playoffs start the second week of April, with the NHL playoffs scheduled to begin immediately after. Whether you're looking to raise the Stanley Cup or lift the Larry O'Brien Trophy, we've got the deal for you. Postseason subscriptions are already a great deal at $219, but with this early bird special, we're slashing it even more to just $177 each, and you get the rest of the regular season for free. Between now and Sunday, April 9th, partner with your favorite NBA or NHL handicapper and get their NHL or NBA best bets all the way through the finals. No coupon is needed. Head to the homepage of your favorite Wager Talk or Sports Memo expert and finish the NBA and NHL postseason with a bang.
Good morning, guys, and welcome into Wager Talk TV. This is a brand new episode of Puck Time. We're here to break down the 3 games on the NHL slate. I have my buy and sell segment and, of course, best bets at the end of the show. I have, of course, Andrew McGinnis, and I have my co-host Carmine Bianco with me. Just the two of us for today's show to start the week off. And Carm, I've been saying this for all kinds of weeks now, and it's, there's still been some good bet on spots and some good games to watch, but this week just has that feeling where I just want to get the regular season out of the way, get into the playoff mode, and start breaking down these matchups. But before we do that, certain teams fighting for positions, fighting for spots in the playoffs, and well, some teams, they've known for a few weeks now that they're pretty much out. How's it going, man? How was your weekend?
I'm happy to be back, guys. 3 days away. I traveled to Detroit. First, I'll say this. I agree with you, Andrew, but there's so many good games this week that I'm looking forward to this week. Maybe not so much next week because I think everything is be sorted out by then, and then we're off to the playoffs. But I'm really looking forward to hopefully this being a big week for me. Maybe as good as Saturday was all around. The trip was, Andrew, Detroit was fantastic. Let me tell you. Underrated in Detroit. Arrived there, took the train. First time ever taking the Via train from downtown Toronto into Windsor, and then I stayed at Caesars Windsor, which is like 5 minutes from the train station, and it's literally 5 minutes from the border, which takes you to Little Caesars. But I went to see the office staff. First, I met up with Melissa. And her fiance at a bar stool in Detroit at Greektown. I went for some drinks and just caught up on stuff. The next day I go into Detroit office. And let me tell you, guys, you don't understand. And Andrew, you've got to make a trip to Detroit to check out our office and the stuff that the staff do. It is unbelievable, the amount of work they do. First of all, Missy, I go into her office. And I think there was an issue with the Gold Sheet website in office, and it just didn't seem to be working. She is so stressed that you could have given her a lump of coal and she would have turned it into a diamond. That is how stressed she was. I'm kind of feared for my life for a little bit. Then I go into the other room and there's Chris and Kyle and Lexi, and they're busy working away on social media and clips and stuff. Just a ton of work. You don't understand how much work our office does until you actually sit there for a few hours and watch them. So kudos to them. We went to a place before the Detroit game called Bookies. I thought this place was owned by Bobby Liggs. It's called Bookies. We go in there. We have some food, a bunch of drinks. Of course, I did the thing where I just order way too much food and we get all these appetizers. And then the drinks arrive. They get Lexi's wrong. So the lady says, I'll be back with her drink in a minute. And it took her like 5-6 minutes. And kudos to Chris and Kyle. They do not touch their drink until she gets hers, so we can all cheers. And I'm staring at my beer, and it's looking right back at me. I'm like, I'm dying to drink this thing, but nobody else is drinking. So I'm not about to pick up my beer. Her drink finally arrives. We cheers, and we start drinking. And the night started, and then we meet up with Missy and Melissa, the 2Ms, at the game. And the Red Wings play a phenomenal game and knock off the Canes at home. Such a good outing there. And then we all went to a bar stool again for some drinks, some blackjack, some casino play. Kudos to the Detroit staff. Thank you for having me. It was such a good time. And then I come back here and literally I crashed for the whole weekend. 6-60, went 5-1. Just the Leafs over against Ottawa mushed the perfect 6-0 day. So I'm happy we're able to give out some winners on the 6-60. That was my last 4 days, Andrew. And I get to relive it all over again because you're coming into town this weekend.
That is going to be a fun time, man. I can't wait for that. Meanwhile, my past few days has been moving, and everybody knows how fun moving is. So it's been exciting, but I don't really like moving. I'm tired of moving every few years, and think this place I'll be in for a little bit longer. So looking forward to this show, Carm. I'm really happy you had a good time. I definitely have to get to Detroit, and it's awesome that you went there and saw them pull off a big upset. You got to see a great game, the home team come out on top, and it's not easy for anybody to beat Carolina right now. So definitely want to go see the Detroit crew and have a good time like you did. And I don't know if I'll be able to take the train like you did, though. That's for sure. But you had an interesting path to get there, taking an Uber over the border. It sounded like it was like Buddy the Elf trying to find New York City. I mean, you just took the train, you hopped over the rocks, and you
So here's the great thing, and we only got 3 games today, so I can just take a couple of minutes if you guys don't mind. But I get first time taking it, I'm like, to try and get a flight was impossible. The train's 4.5 hours, the same as driving. I didn't want to drive, so I take the train, and they serve you food on it. It's like business class. It's inexpensive, and laptop, Wi-Fi, everything. So I was able to watch the show as well too, chat with people. But I get to Windsor, and I call an Uber. The guy picks me off and drops me off, and I ask him about going over the border. Does Uber do? He goes, it depends on whether someone has their passport. And I goes, I have a private car business. I can pick you up. He gives me his number. So that he drops me off. So I plan on going in the next day to Barstool. I'm playing some slots inside Caesars, and I don't normally play slots, but I hit one for. This is Canadian money, which is like 30% of what American money is. But I hit a slot for about $500-$600. So I cash it out. I'm like, screw this. I'm not going to give it all back. And now I decide that this money is I'm just going to use it to tip this guy. So he picks me up. He says the drive to where I want to go is about $50. There's $10 toll going over the bridge and everything. So it's about $60 or so. So he drops me off at Barstool, and I hand him like a Canadian 100. And this guy's like, let me get you change. I go, no change needed. And literally the 4 times he took me back and forth, because he would say, give me a half hour's notice when you want to be picked up, and I'll drive across the border, pick you up, and bring you back. So the 4 times I literally just gave him a C-note each and every time. It was paid for by the Caesars Casino, and it bought me some karma, I think. Maybe that's why the 6-60 went 5-1. But when someone goes out of your way to say, we'll pick you up, drop you off anytime you want. Doesn't matter if you want to be picked up at 1:30 in the morning outside of Little Caesars, we'll do it. They deserve what they get. So that's the way I look at it.
For sure, man. Hey, what goes around comes around, Carm. Good things happen to good people. So sounds like that was a good guy for you to meet. And you know what? I got to say, I love seeing all the props you got on Saturday. It makes me happy with how toxic social media can be. People are pumped up, man, about your games on Saturday. So let's keep it going into this week and cash some tickets. Vegas Golden Knights at Minnesota to play the Wild, Predators at Stars, and we have the Coyotes and Seattle Kraken as the nightcap for us tonight. Carm, let's start things off with our first game. Vegas and Minnesota going head-to-head here in this one. I'll tell you what, you take a look at the odds in this game, and they're pretty tight, but we've got to look at the standings and take a look at the Western Conference. And, the Central Division has just been unbelievable. Right now, the Wild, they are in first place in the Central Division with 97 points, Avalanche with 96, and the Dallas Stars with 96. So as much as I'm talking about how excited I am for the playoffs and to break down these matchups, in some of these divisions, these matchups are not decided yet. Minnesota, minus 135. Vegas, plus 115. Total at 5.5. Carm, pretty much picking the winner of this game is kind of like picking the winner, who's going to finish higher in the division. What are your thoughts here? Who do you like more, Vegas or Minnesota?
Yeah, it's the interesting thing, Andrew, because it's one of those games where sometimes when you have futures, which I do on Colorado to win the Central, on Edmonton to win the Pacific, you're on any given night you're cheering for, well, you don't have action on, you're cheering for a specific team to lose. And in this one, I would love both teams to lose, but unfortunately that can't happen. I've got Colorado, and they're a point back of Minnesota with a game in hand. And the Dallas Stars right behind them. They're tied with Colorado. And then I've got, and then there's Vegas, and they're 2 points up on Edmonton. They have a game in hand. So it would be great for them to lose this one as well, too. But just looking at the game itself, you guys know they just played on Saturday in Vegas, and Vegas won that game 4-1. And normally I like to take a team that, if they're playing back-to-back, the same two teams, I like to take a team that lost the first game in the second game, and more so if that team that lost the first game was the away team, because they're home for the second one, which Minnesota is. You got to give this Minnesota team credit. And I know a lot of people are, but there's numbers that never get mentioned with them. That loss to Vegas on Saturday in regulation 4-1 was only their second loss in regulation in their last 22 games. They have gone 16-2-4 the last 22 games. It's unbelievable. Everybody I hear keeps talking about like Vegas and Edmonton and Colorado and all. It just seems like Minnesota, especially because of Kirill getting injured, that this team seems to be flying under the radar zone, but they're not. This is a team that is playing extremely well. They play a very good defense. Gustafsson's been fantastic in goal. You got to give this team credit. I'm not still sold on Quick for Vegas in goal, but they play well in front of them. Obviously, it was a different story previously, but I'm just not sold on them. I like Minnesota in this spot, but it wouldn't surprise me, and this is terrible for me as far as future bets go, that this game goes to overtime. And overtime, draw after 60 minutes is plus 320 in this game. This is teams that could very well share the points with someone winning the game in overtime. But I like Minnesota at this price, Andrew, and that's where I'm going to take it. It opened at 130. The market moved it to 135. There's like one or two minus 140s on them. But both teams are playing extremely well. You can make a case for both teams. But I'm going on the fact that Minnesota lost that first game. I'm going to take them at home in the second game for a 2-game split. So I'll lay the bit of juice on Minnesota here.
Carm, we're about a 2-hour plane ride away, but I think we're sharing notes for today's show so far. I think that literally word for word, some of the things you said there are things that I was going to mention, which is a good sign because you've been running pretty hot. So I'll be quick. For me, I like the fact that they're avenging a loss. I like the fact that Minnesota played this team just a few short days ago. I like the fact that Minnesota is the better defensive hockey team out of these two clubs. And when it comes down to it, of course, you want goal production. You want to bet on a team that can score and put the puck in the net. But off a loss at home, give me the better defensive team. And I think that is the Minnesota Wild. The Vegas Golden Knights, in a lot of their games they've won recently, look, they've gone over, I think, in 7 of their last 10 games. But a lot of that is in reason for them winning games, 4-3, 5-2. They've had to put up numbers sometimes where, I saw them had a game the other day that was 5-4. I mean, this is the thing with this Vegas Golden Knights team. They have to win games by scoring lots of goals. I mean, I can't always trust their defense to win them games. I can trust Minnesota's defense to win them games, and I do expect a bounce-back effort. I would actually lean towards the under as well in this game. I think it will be a shutdown, kind of a playoff feel to it. Of course, like you talked about, Carm, I mentioned the Minnesota battle for them, but of course, there's a battle going on in Vegas for their division as well. But give me the home team. I'll take the home team here, minus 135. I think it's a great bet-on situation for them, a team that will bounce back. And you take a look at every game, really, besides that loss against Vegas just over on April 1st. I mean, they only allow 2 against Colorado. They allow 1 against Seattle, 1 against Chicago, 1 against New Jersey, 3 against Washington. This is a really solid defensive team, and getting to kind of play that team that just beat you a few days ago immediately in a bounce back mode, I feel like it's a great position. So we are definitely on the same page in game number 1. I'll take the Minnesota Wild on the money line here at minus 130, 135 here. Moving on to game number 2, Nashville and Dallas. Dallas duking it out, like I said. We just talked about the standings in that division. Meanwhile, Nashville, I talked about it last week with you, Carm. I feel like they're that team that's trying to play spoiler down the stretch, but they've kind of been written off a little bit over the past few weeks. They're plus 170. Road underdogs, Dallas minus 200. Total sits at 6 right now. Puck line minus 1.5 is plus 130. What are your thoughts on this matchup, Carm? Do you think that Dallas will dominate, or we'll see Nashville show up to play underdog?
Nashville could very well, make sure I'm not muted here. Nashville could very well show up to play spoilers. You look at it, and you can say what you want to say against both the Bruins. They occasionally rest a player, like they did, I think, yesterday in one of their games. But they basically went into Boston and beat the Bruins 2-1. They were pretty much in control of that game throughout. They played a great game. Then they lose to Pittsburgh. It's the exact opposite. They tried to play another defensive style game, but they allowed 45 shots to Pittsburgh, and they lose that game 2-0. And then they play the Blues and blow out the Blues. But that was another game that was trending to the under until late in the third period. And that's where I'm looking at. Nashville's trying to scrape as many points as they can right now, any way they can, get a game to overtime, pick up a point. They have some big games coming up. They don't play any easy teams at all, this Nashville team. Just to mention their schedule, this is their remaining games. They play Dallas tonight, Vegas, Carolina, Winnipeg, Calgary, Minnesota, Colorado. Every single one of the teams they play is playing for something. Even when they're playing teams like Carolina, they're trying to win the Metro. They're playing Vegas, trying to win the Pacific. Of course, Dallas tonight. You look at Calgary trying to make the playoffs. Winnipeg, the big 4-pointer for them. Every team they play is a big one from this point forward. They don't have an easy schedule. And now they're playing a Dallas team that comes off a loss to Colorado in their last one. They return home off I think it was a 3-game road trip. But this team is also playing well. They lost to the Avs. That is not a big you can excuse them on that one. Draw a line through it. This team is playing extremely well, has a shot at that number 1 seed. And this is another one that I think could very well get to overtime. We might see quite a bit of these sharing points, and someone wins it in OT. That 1 point is so valuable right now. But you look at it, there's only one way for me to go. And I'm not going to look at a side. I'm looking at a total. Just the way Nashville's playing, trying to keep these games low scoring and not getting into a goal fest with anyone and trying to win low scoring games, which they can do because they need the points. You got to lean under 6 here. And it wouldn't surprise me as this day goes on if those 6s become 5.5s. So if you can get that half goal, it is always important to get it. Taking under 5.5 is completely different than taking an under 6. And I will be playing some unders here on out. I played the under in the Pittsburgh-Philadelphia game, and it almost blew up in my face with some empty net goals at the end, but that stayed under. This feels like another one, kind of like that one yesterday where I see a tighter checking game and an under. So under 6 for me in this one.
All right, looking towards a good defensive effort. Under 6 for Carmine in this one. I love that you're giving out these draw picks too, Carm. I mean, this is the time of year for it. This is the time of year we see every point matter, every point add up in the standings. Anybody that knows me and how I handicap hockey, and we hate to use the word letdown and some of these words that get thrown around with gambling, but the Dallas Stars, they played 2 games in a row where they were dominant, and it was against Chicago Blackhawks and the Arizona Coyotes. Their next game after those 2 battles were against the Colorado Avalanche. And, I think, Carm, sometimes when you play 2 weak teams and then you go ahead and play, a contender, a heavy hitter like Colorado, you might not be in that same mojo because you just played 2 teams you dominated, from start to finish pretty much. So it's a little bit of a wake-up call for Dallas against Colorado. But I found something here where Dallas, they are 7-2 in their last 9 games following a game where they gave up 5 goals or more, meaning that they know how to regroup. They're well coached. They've got great leadership. and their defense always shows up, and they show up in games after they gave up a lot of goals. And against a Nashville team that, as you mentioned, when they beat you, they usually aren't lighting you up. They scored 6 in their last game. I don't expect them to do that again by any means. So I think that Dallas is the play here. You can get them around 125, 130 in regulation. You can also look at the team total under for the Nashville Predators. I'm curious, Carm, do you ever do that when you're looking at an under, but you kind of are worried maybe about one team? Would you ever look at the team total under for Nashville tonight? I know you like I'm not trying to convince you on my play here, but I like Dallas. Would you ever just take Nashville to keep it under their total?
Just because of the style I expect them to play, but sometimes it backfires on you. And I'll use yesterday as a case in point. I didn't think the Ottawa game could go over, but I thought Ottawa would get the scoring done in that. So I had Ottawa in regulation, and I had Ottawa team total over 3.5. Well, the score is 3-2 at the end of the first period. Ottawa winning 3-2 at the end of the first. And I'm like, okay, well, the team total is looking good. And Ottawa does not score another goal. Columbus, the worst possible scenario happens where Columbus scores one with about 6 or 7 minutes left, and the game ends up going to overtime, and then Ottawa gives it up in their own end, and Columbus wins the game, and I lose both bets. Those are the ones where you don't expect the game to go over, so you look at the team total, and I looked at the team total yesterday, and you would give up your left arm if someone told you, I'll let you bet on the Ottawa team total over 3.5 at the end of the first period with your team up 3, your team already having 3 goals. You're like, and it's against Columbus. You're going to do it every single time. But those are the ones that blow up in your face. So it's unfortunate, but would I make the bet again? Yes, I would, just because I just don't. I'm in straight fade on Columbus and Anaheim and all those other teams. But I get your point. We've talked about a lot, Andrew, this year, and you used it with success on taking the team total when you don't expect the other team can possibly get the goals. So there's nothing worse than taking like an Edmonton over 7 and they win the game 5-1, and you could have bet the over 4.5 team total, right? So
for sure,
those are the ones. Sometimes if you can't find it, you can look elsewhere, and sometimes looking elsewhere will work. It didn't this time out. So full transparency, that's how you get hit in the face with a pie.
Well, speaking of getting hit in the face, yesterday I had the Leafs team total over. I was debating that or the full game over, and of course the Detroit Red Wings win 5-2. So I don't know where the Leafs offense was yesterday. I figured even with Marner out, they would still put on a good show, but they did not show up. Detroit, I have Detroit circled as a team that might be playing spoiler down the stretch and kind of a team to watch out for. They're not really mailing it in, as you saw when you were there, Carm, to watch them play against the Hurricanes. Final game to break down here, the Coyotes and Seattle Kraken. Well, this Coyotes team, they were on a big streak. They were covering their puck lines. They were winning games, and now they've lost 7 straight. The funny thing is, even during these 7 straight they've lost, they've still been covering some puck lines. They've still been keeping things close. However, Seattle, they might be minus 315 favorites, but they're a team that this game certainly means something to them in the National Hockey League standings. We have Arizona plus 255, plus 1.5 is still plus money at plus 105, and the total is at 6.5 for this one. To keep people updated here, we do have the Pacific Division. We have Seattle in 4th. It would be very hard for them to really change their position. They sit with 90 points as far as that is concerned, but they're definitely sitting in that wild card spot. But Carm, they're playing at home tonight against an Arizona team that's just giving up goals left and right. How do you approach this game here, and is there anything that you like on this contest?
Yeah, the thing, Andrew, with games like this is whenever there's a big line, I think you have to kind of look elsewhere and try and find like maybe the player props section of it, because Arizona is one of the top teams as far as allowing shots on goal, and that normally happens on the road. This is a team that has lost 24 of their last 25 road games. If they played as bad at home as they did on the road, and they don't, because I think they have like 20 plus wins on the road, I think, or something like that, or 19 wins or so. they would have that number one the number one percentage for winning the lottery sweepstakes this year sewn up by this point, but they have 67 points. It's because of their home record. It surprises me that this is the first game. We're in game 75 of the regular season, 77 for Arizona. This is the first time that these teams are meeting this season, and they're going to play 3 times in the next 7 or 8 days against each other. So they're going to become very familiar with each other. This is great for Seattle because Seattle, they have 7 games left. 5 of them are against teams that are in the bottom 5 of the standings right now because they also play, I think, Chicago, and I believe they play San Jose as well too before they finish with Vegas back-to-back. So while they're in that 7th spot, we can pretty much guarantee that they're going to get their playoff spot is sewn up. You can look at player props. There's some good player props in here. You can look at maybe the Keller one. Keller seems to be going over. He's been on such a great run scoring goals. He had, I think, that streak of where he scored in 6 or 7 straight games. So his goal scoring prop is a good one. His over 2.5, I think, is only about minus 120, 130. You look at it, if you expect what is supposed to happen, and it doesn't always work out that way, that the Seattle puck line isn't a bad way to go. I'm never laying 315, and I can't even lay the regulation bet because I think that's north of $2. I think that's around minus 200, minus 210. I'd probably take the puck line because it's only minus 125. And you figure Seattle wants to take care of business. They're off a loss. They played well off a loss. They're back home. Give me Seattle minus 125, and I'll probably look at some player props, which I'll be loading for some clients today.
It definitely is a great matchup for player props. I'll have one in a few minutes for my best bet. And like you said, you'll have some as well for all access clients. And mentioned a few there too. And Carm, you look at this game, you said you're comfortable with the puck line. For me, I'm comfortable with the over. I do think we talked about it, a few minutes ago. It kind of worked well that we were segueing into this game because this game is a pretty good example of what we were just speaking about with the team totals, right? Do you look towards the Arizona team total under? Do you bet the over 4.5 team total for Seattle and expect them to win 5-1 and the game land on 6? What do we expect? But Arizona themselves are off just an absolute crushing defeat. Just a really bad loss on their part. I mean, nobody is losing 7-2 to the San Jose Sharks. I don't think, I don't think me, you, and producer Dan would lose to the San Jose Sharks 7-2. I mean, you can put us in net. I know you have some history in, playing some hockey. I can stand out there for a few shifts. This is a San Jose Sharks team that shouldn't be beating anybody 7-2. But I think Arizona has pride. They will bounce back, but it goes to show how bad they are defensively. And Seattle will put so many shots on them. They're very aggressive. They have a great power play. I'm picturing something along the lines of 5-3 in this game. So I'm going to give out the over here. I think we're getting a pretty good number, the minus 115. A lot of numbers back it up here. We have seen it go over is 5-0, 5 straight games for the Arizona Coyotes. When in their previous game, they only scored 2 or fewer goals, which means they are a bounce back team and they kind of do always respond after having a pretty flat game. But Seattle, as we talked about, every game means so much to them. I do expect lots out of them. This one could be a messy one, guys. Lock this one in here, over 6.5. This game, of course, is a 10 o'clock Eastern start, the nightcap of the night here, or of the slate here on Monday. And Carmine likes the puck line. So a high-scoring win is good for both of us.
Yeah, it is. And, I was looking at, and Andrew, we always talk about looking for other ways to bet this game. And I really wanted to take, I said to myself, man, if the Seattle team total is 3.5 at like 150 or lower, I'm taking the Seattle team total at 3.5. Because you look at Arizona, and in their last, 7 losses, they allowed 7, 5, 5, 4, 3, 4, and 2. So lately, especially lately, they have been allowing a ton of goals. But then you go and look at the team total in Seattle, over 3.5 is minus 180. And that probably is still going to go up. So I can't take that. And then you think, okay, well, maybe go take the next step up, take over 4.5. And I don't think taking over 4.5 is a good idea because it could very well land on 4, which kills that bet. You're getting plus money at plus 120. You can shop around. This is DraftKings I'm talking about. So you might be able to find it lower. And if you do on the 3.5, you can find it at minus 150. I would say take it, because you got to believe, especially Andrew, you're like in the over here, that taking over 3.5 for Seattle, if you can get at 150, is probably a good way to go. I don't know where else to look. I'll check a couple other books, but I gotta guess that I'm not coming anywhere near that. So it's a pass on that one. I can't take the over 4.5. But with that said, Andrew, this is, I believe, your final buy and sell segment of the week, because next week I think there's only a few days before we get to the playoffs. So I'm looking forward to seeing who you're buying and who you're selling. So let's get to it.
All right, guys, this is the buy and sell segment every single week, trying to find a team to buy and bet on, a team to sell and bet against. This is the final segment of the season. Of course, we'll get into things with player props and things like that come playoff time, but the final segment for the buy and sell as far as the regular season is concerned. Guys, starting off with the buy team. This team has frustrated me all season long, but I have high hopes for them as the season winds down. That team is the Winnipeg Jets. Winnipeg here, they have a big battle against the Calgary Flames coming up this week on Thursday, a game that I believe they will get up for. They are the better defensive team out of those two. I believe they do better in the standings, and I believe they shut down the hopes of Calgary to kind of make their marks, get into the playoffs, and really kind of prove that you can't be as inconsistent as Calgary has been and win big games like the one against Winnipeg. So I think Winnipeg wins that one. Jets have the Predators. They have the Sharks, Wild, and Avalanche. I feel like they show up for these big games. Every single game means something for this Jets team down the stretch, guys, and that's why they are a bet-on team for me. They have a great goaltender, and they have certainly found their scoring touch offensively over their past few games. The sell team, Carmine touched on this perfectly during our Puck Time show today about the schedule remaining for Nashville. First of all, Nashville is kind of checked out for the most part. They did have that one upset against the Bruins, but overall, looking at the schedule they have moving forward, they have the Stars on Monday night. They have the Golden Knights. They have the Hurricanes, the Jets. They have the Flames, Wild, and Avalanche to end off their season. I don't really see that many winnable games for Nashville. I don't see any flat spots for their opponents. Every single team they're going to play is going to be fighting for something, fighting for a position, and they will be showing up for that game against Nashville, especially with Nashville trading off some guys at the deadline. I am not buying into this team whatsoever, despite some recent victories. I am selling the Nashville Predators. Carm, I would ask you what you thought of this pick, but you kind of already told me when you said a lot of the stuff I just said there about that schedule Nashville has moving forward. And Winnipeg, they've caused me some problems recently, but they've seemingly found their offense, and we know how great of a defensive team they are, and they have Connor Hellebuck. So what do you think of them as my buy team?
Yeah, no, listen, I like both. I like both plays. First off, they don't play again until Wednesday, Winnipeg. So they've got a couple of days off, which is always great before they host the Calgary Flames, who are a hot mess. And they can put a nail into Calgary's coffin in that one. So you're going to get Hellebuck in that. You're probably going to get their best effort out of them. And hopefully they can do what they're supposed to do and win that game. Then they got the Preds who come to town. And the Preds, for all intents and purposes, if the next 3 games for the Preds go horribly wrong and they play Dallas tonight, then they have Vegas in town. Off of tonight's game, Vegas plays. So if Vegas loses, Vegas could be coming in off a loss as well too, which is another bad spot, I would think, for Nashville. And then they got the Carolina Hurricanes who are still playing for that Metro and the number 1 seed. If they go 0-3, they are pretty much done as they head into Winnipeg for that one. Then Winnipeg can put a nail in their coffin. So before Winnipeg finishes off with San Jose over the course of this week. So I think that's a very good buy and sell just because of the situations that are in play. And to your Nashville one, Andrew, I know we got to speed it up, but I mentioned Nashville's their schedule. If Nashville makes it into the playoffs, kudos to them because they deserve it with this schedule of playing Dallas, Vegas, Carolina, Winnipeg, Calgary, Minnesota, and Colorado. There is not an easy out in any one of those games, but they went into Boston and beat the Boston Bruins. So I'm not saying they can't get it done, but I think with every loss, you just see that playoff spot falling farther and farther away, and fewer games to catch up. So I like both of those, Andrew.
Well, thanks, Carm. And I'll definitely be following along with those. I'll be putting my money where my mouth is with these guys. I mean, it's a short week. It's an NHL week where I won't really be heavily involved picking my spots. And I think that that's one team to look forward to bet on and definitely one team to look to bet against. Karma, what do you have for us for best bet material? And of course, it's $9 Monday. Every play at Wager Talk today that's available is up there for only $9. What do you have for us today?
Yeah, first of all, I'm really gearing up and looking forward to. I'll be on Wager Talk today, and I'll be talking about some of this stuff as well too, some different angles. But 3 soccer games. First one goes at 12:30 on $9 Mondays, and then for an NHL plays and props, 2 plays, 2 props, and I'm going to add a couple more props to it as well too. And you get those for $9. I've got a great deal that the office put together for me today, which is the next 90 days all access, $250 off with Bianco $250. That'll get you $250 off the $849 price, so it's $599 or $200 a month for a 90 days of all access. That's going to cover right through the Stanley Cup Finals. That's going to cover the end of all the European soccer seasons, 3 different tournaments as well, and then there's another midsummer tournament, and of course baseball, the Grand Slams. There's just a ton of action. Anything I release, you will get with this package. Now, as far as my show best bet, Andrew, I'm going to go to that Dallas game, and I'm going to take Jason Robertson shots on goal. It's one I've given out on this show with success. It's over 3.5 minus 135. You know, he's coming off he came up there a stretch where he went under 4 straight games, but his ice time was reduced to about 16.5 minutes. He's gone back to regular ice time of about 20 minutes a game, and he's hit 5 of 7 times since getting an increase in ice time as well too. So we're going to look for that to happen tonight. You put your best players on the ice in games that mean something, and Robertson is one of the best players there. So he'll get the ice time over 3.5 shots on goal, minus 135 is your show best bet.
Love that price. Love that prop play there. And his line has been unbelievable this season. Jason Robertson, we all knew he was good, but definitely a breakout year for him. I am 4-0 to start the baseball season. I know it just started, but feeling pretty good. I have a free play up at my profile page on wagertalk.com. I have a best bet going up here after the show. And I'm just waiting for some goaltender information, but I believe I will have a best bet up in the NHL today. Just want to make sure I get some, information and the right guys starting in nets that I would like to have out there. But I'm assuming it will be the guy that I'm thinking it is. Speaking of best bets, though, and speaking of player props, as you mentioned, Carm, in this game, there's lots of different player props to look at. Talking about the Seattle Kraken versus Arizona Coyotes game here, looking at Vince Dunn. I mean, he might be a defenseman, but he's constantly involved in the scoring, in the assist department, on the power play, and Arizona ranking 31st in shots on goal allowed. We have seen Dunn go over 2.5 shots in 4 of his last 5 games. Lots of shot attempts, and the price on this one is plus 150. So I'll take Vince Dunn over 2.5 shots on goal tonight for the Seattle Kraken at plus 150. We'll try and cash some tickets, cash in on our player props tonight, Carm, and have a good night to start off this week here on Puck Time. A reminder, guys, every single play, $9 available today at wagertalk.com. Grab Carmine's special package as well for 90 days. And a quick recap, I have Vince Dunn over 2.5 shots on goal. Carmine with Jason Robertson over 3.5 shots on goal. Guys, Carmine will be on Wager Talk today coming up here shortly. Make sure you check him out on there as well. And other than that, guys, best of luck. We'll see you tomorrow.
The NBA playoffs start the second week of April, with the NHL playoffs scheduled to begin immediately after. Whether you're looking to raise the Stanley Cup or lift the Larry O'Brien Trophy, we've got the deal for you. Postseason subscriptions are already a great deal at $219, but with this early bird special, we're slashing it even more to just $177 each, and you get the rest of the regular season for free. Between now and Sunday, April 9th, partner with your favorite NBA or NHL handicapper and get their NHL or NBA best bets all the way through the finals. No coupon is needed. Head to the homepage of your favorite Wager Talk or Sports Memo expert and finish the NBA and NHL postseason with a bang.